ladies.
Good evening.
We have lost Lucy.
Lucy?
She's lost a connection, she said.
Oh, man. Hi, Strangeness. Always happens. How is everybody?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Just down in coffee to keep me awake. Still weird jet lag. Don't know what time zone I'm in.
You're 2 hours ahead of us. You're 2 hours ahead anyway, aren't you? So,
yeah. And I've come from...
Oh, Lucy's back in the Zoom. We'll do the start again. Hey! Our fourth is here. Hi, Lucy. How are you doing?
Hi, Lucy.
Hi, Lucy.
Good. Hi.
I think there's some tech issues.
Everyone getting on?
Good. I think there's tech issues going on everywhere.
Yeah.
Is there like a solar storm happening or something? Because
it's just high strangeness.
Pardon?
It's just all high strangeness.
Yeah, it is. It's high strangeness. We're just going to attract it now.
I think we do already.
We do.
So, we've had a bit of a break. So we've had Elisa out in foreign lands on her travels. We've celebrated a full moon. Wasn't there an eclipse or something the other day? Maybe I'm just dreaming things.
Yeah.
And we had Halloween.
Full moon eclipse in Taurus, was it?
There we go. I must say, this full moon got me effed up. I never can sleep with a full moon anyway. But my God, I was like a cross between the Terminator, a cryptid, because I've learned a lot about them this week, and a demented old fishwife nag, I was described as at one point. But it lasted for like 2 days, this lunacy. How did you girls find this full moon?
Surprisingly calming this time. Touch wood.
Yeah. How about you, Liz?
That's good. Oh, I was traveling at the time, and like Holly, you know, I almost got stuck in Madrid. So, and I was, but on leaving, because we were in Mexico, they delayed like the transfer time a couple of times, and it was just wrong every time. It was just the timing, everything. Then we weren't checked on properly for the onward flight, and that was like my full moon experience. But I'm like you, Holly, I can't sleep on full moon. Just it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm.
And I kind of, and I know we're diving into cryptids, and I've learned some crazy things this week. Shadow people, which is actually terrifies me, and mythical creatures. I like a unicorn, but I really think we should delve into that moon stuff at some stage, because it really struck me how much it affected me recently. Normally I've got an awareness of it, and a child of the moon. It's I do follow the cycle of the moon in some areas of my life, but I was like, got me totally like like a lunatic. See what I did?
That's where it comes from, though, isn't it? Something like that. Craziness on the full moon.
Well, don't more people get arrested on a full moon, or is that just another urban myth?
No, supposedly.
And more people end up in hospitals. Is that right? Obviously, not with your medical background, or people just having fights and crazy.
There's definitely something in the air and out there on a full moon
that was me howling. Yeah. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in so far. Hi, Peter. Hi, the Wilcox family, Liz, L3AW Jers. Hi. Welcome to our show. Lucy seems to be in and out. She's back in the Wyrde Sister house. Here she is. Is she?
Here she is.
Hey, Michael.
Hi, Strangeness. So, we are gathering today, minus a cauldron, to talk about cryptids, shadow people, and mythical creatures. Now, as you can clearly see, our Nat is very, very excited. And it's an interesting one for me, because it's not an area I know a lot about. And it's always been very purposeful, because it frightens me. And I always direct myself away from things that give me a bit of a, give me, bit of a shudder. And I was really questioning myself what I'm so afraid of, considering I'm into the paranormal. I love, anything ghostly, ghouly. None of that irks me. I've stood in many a haunted property asking them to touch me and make themselves known. Not that doesn't scare me, but anything around anything monstery or beastly, or certainly this whole shadow people thing just gets me frightened. And I'll come on to it at some point during the show, but I think I know why. Dun, dun. I need one of those sound boxes. Dun, dun, dun.
Still
So
not got one.
I'm
So go
gonna
on,
get
why?
one.
Why do you think you're so freaked out about the monster aspect of the paranormal?
I'm so freaked out because I've had regression quite recently, and I'm an experiencer in a U.F.O capacity, um, and I've had experiences as a child that I've never fully understood, and the regression I've been having has maybe, and it depends where you sit on the whole regression thing. I know there's for and against and what have you, but I think the experiences I had as a child were of a ET type nature, which is a whole other kettle of fish. And I think because I attribute it to shadowy type characters and entities I couldn't put a face to, that's why I'm shit scared of anything that's cryptic-y, shadowy, and I really think it stems from being an experience as a child. So that's where my research has taken me this week. Interesting, right?
Very interesting.
When we were at I went to an event a couple of weeks ago and Whitley Strieber discussed the beings, the entities that made contact with him and came into his room. It was a bit of a flash for me, and it moved me beyond all belief, because the beings that he described were the beings that I'd encountered as a child, and I just thought they were bizarre. I've always been told you've got a really vivid imagination, stop it. And he described them to a T, the beings I had seen. That's a whole other show and a whole other subject, but I think that's why I'm scared of anything a bit like cryptidly monstery, because of those experiences. I'm going to shut up now because I'm certainly. Hi, Rosie.
Sorry, the dog's going
That's a
bonkers.
cryptid. Dun dun dun. Right, I'm talking too much. So, our Nat loves this subject. So, my first question is, what the flubber is? I was going to say F-U-C-K, and I'm trying not to swear this week. What the flip is a cryptid? I've got the definition, but
Yeah.
what does it mean? What is it in Nat's world? What are they?
In my world, it's most definitely a creature or a thing that we have no physical evidence for particularly, but we believe exist in a nutshell. But for me, there is certainly that huge big link between the paranormal world, aliens, all of that high strangeness,
Yeah.
linking the cryptids that there are all over the world, and that there are literally hundreds and hundreds of them that date back till time began. So yeah, for me it's very much all intertwined, but there are certainly things that are not proven really by mainstream research. We believe that Bigfoot exists, well, a lot of people do, but we've got no definitive proof. Lots of people believe the Loch Ness monster exists, but we've got no definitive proof. So that's what makes a cryptid. It's something that a lot of people believe exists, but we don't really have that research and that groundbreaking evidence to prove that it actually does. Well, not yet anyway.
Do you think, and this has got a very sciencey brain, do you think it's purposeful that we haven't been able to fully confirm them through science? Do you think there's a mystical or something called element to these beings? Because it is a bit mad how
It makes you wonder
they're
why there's not
cited.
more evidence.
Yeah, like is it by design? Oh.
Well, if you look into Bigfoot sightings, quite a lot of people who witness a so-called Bigfoot or Yeti or whatever you want to call them, because
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch, they've got different names in different cultures, different countries, etc. But big, hairy, ape-like, beastie things about 10 foot tall. A lot of people say when they go to get evidence of it, these beings are very paranormal and will disappear, like say a ghost would, or perhaps they're living in a parallel universe or something like that. They disappear when you go and try and get evidence of them a lot of the time, which really links them to a sort of like a paranormal type entity that is there but is not wanting, a bit like aliens in a way, to be captured so much.
Interesting. I was chatting to a friend of mine, shout out DJ over in the States. He's part of a fabulous podcast and a really good friend of mine. And in preparation for this show, we were just chewing it on Bigfoot, because he went out on an expedition recently, and I think it's this weekend, Calling All Beings, perhaps. I think they're covering it, but I could be wrong. But check him out on Twitter. And I was like, I think they're from a parallel universe or dimension, and they're just dropping in, and the two spheres, their world and our world is connected, and they're just dropping in. And he gave me such a different optic and perspective. And I spent the whole day watching like documentaries about Bigfoot, and the way they, or apparently the way they organize themselves deep in these woods is kind the way we were chatting, or there's a school of thought that they're deep in these woods. They've evolved into these family packs, and they have like sentries out, look like Sasquatch cousin 1 and Sasquatch cousin 2. They kind of go with sentries in like a mile, in a couple of mile radius, and because their hearing is so evolved, they're constantly watching when the human approaches, so they're able to use the way they've evolved and their intelligence to up sticks and move or protect that environment. And that blew my mind. And I ended up watching a documentary where this fellow went into the woods, and all the trees had been bent, but not in a natural way. And I was
Very
like,
common. Very
but
common.
it like literally like bent as if to say, stop, this is our gaff. So for anyone that's not Scouse, this is our territory, go away. And some of the way the trees had been pulled and bent as if they were building things that had been there for a really long time. And it made me think this whole Yeti, abominable snowman, Sasquatch, all of the different names that these beasts are called. Maybe they, and when they do that, like that noise that they call, and this guy did the hoof noise, and then it responded, and they were in the middle of nowhere. And one, it made me want to put a backpack on and fly to America and go Bigfoot hunting. But two, is there an intelligence that just, maybe that's why they haven't been caught, or we haven't found a dead one or anything like that, because they're smart.
There's certainly evidence out there to show that they work in familial packs, and that there are small ones and big ones, etc. So yeah, it's very interesting. But if you look at a Yeti or a Sasquatch, obviously different locations. One lives in the snow, one lives out in the woods somewhere. They all share the same kind of characteristics, which is interesting. And there is a lot of evidence out there, but there are also a lot of people who go out and try and capture them or get evidence, but still we're really lacking that physical evidence, to say conclusively,
Definitive.
Yeah.
I think I've dated a couple
tracked,
of Bigfoot.
Yeah, I was married to a cryptid.
Oh, bam! Boom!
Yeah.
I've definitely dated a cryptid or two, like, fact. I think we all probably have in our time, haven't we?
But they're also excellent at camouflage. Obviously, they're supposedly big and hairy, so they hang out in the woods or in the snow. The snow yetis obviously are white, so they are very well camouflaged. So actually, they are hard to find. But you will hear them with that strange call, and they also would knock. They would knock as well as a form of communication.
Because some of my researchers, you know, some of the indigenous people there was I can't remember exactly where it was in America, but a lot up from California because it'd gone to forests and stuff, and there was at the top of this peak where you know, an indigenous tribe had you know, settled, and inside this sort of wood stone structure there was all like paintings of this big animal. I feel bad calling it a beast because I don't know if it is beastly, and it's very human to you know, call it bad names, but their folklore is that it was a shapeshifter, and you know, it had that, like, you know, paranormally mystical thing to it, and yeah,
I believe that's what it is.
do you?
A paranormal, shape-shifting, interdimensional being.
Wow.
I was reading something about shapeshifters.
Oh, sorry, Lucy, we can't hear you at all.
Oh no, can you hear me if I'm closer to the microphone?
Might need to turn up just a little bit. Very, very low.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit. Keep going.
How about now? I can't turn it up anymore.
Yeah. Hang on, let me just see if there's anything I can do. Just stay close to the mic so we can pick you up.
Yeah. I was listening to something about skin changes today, and I think that it was army reports again. So reports of they'd seen this thing, and it was a boar, and they were kind of like keeping an eye on this boar, and then it turned into like a large cat, and they were looking at it like, didn't we just see a boar? And then the same place as a cat, and then it stood up on its hind legs. They were like, oh, what is this?
Wow.
And then it vanished essentially, and they were both like, did you see that? Yeah. Did what was that? You know, and then it was like there was like a local they were talking to one of the local lads who was like, oh yeah, it's I can't remember what it was called, but they knew what it was. They were
Sounds very skinwalkerish.
We're gonna come on to that.
Well, that's what it sounds like.
It does. It does. And it also, you know, always want to knit it back to a UFO. You know, there's been so many reports over the years that you see it in one kind of shape and then it changes into a different type of shape. There's a lot of shape shifting going on in this strangeness, weirdness phenomenon, and it really then it starts to make me think. And you know, I'm not intelligent, nowhere near enough to understand it, but it all comes back to my favorite word. All comes back to energy transmuting and in different ways.
Yeah.
Why do you think then, ladies? Why have we never? We found the footprints. We found bits of hair that's had some anomalies. It couldn't be conclusively said it's this or it's that. There's broken branches. There's tales from the indigenous people. But surely, with the technology that we possess now, there's got to be a way to survey these large spaces. Surely, is the technology? I don't know. Like,
there's definitely technology there, but I just like it comes down to the whole energy thing. If they're multidimensional, they're going to skip way out of here. But it's whether or not there's some kind of like Stargate-y kind of thing that they're actually accidentally coming into and going out of. It might not be a deliberate thing, or it could just be a like interdimensional shift that is just so accidental. It's almost like, you know, when like there's interference on a TV screen and another channel comes up momentarily and then goes off again. It's like that. Maybe they were never here. It's just some kind of weird time illusion thing. But going back to what you were saying about the shape-shifting type of thing. That reminds me of a session that I did with Lucy when I was like, I'm getting this message from this other dimensional being, and I'm trying to see what they look like. And the face kept shifting and shifting and shifting and shifting. And I got this message going, you don't get to see what I look like. And I was like, whoa. And I was like, okay, I'll stop trying then. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, is there something about you don't get to know the whole truth? You don't get to know everything. But then there's another train of thought where, what if it's just science experiments gone wrong? Stuff's managed to escape somewhere. And this is what freaks me out a bit. And then it's like people are recalling stuff. People are actually getting rid of the evidence because they know if we find out too much evidence, it's going to lead back to something that we shouldn't know about.
That's
So
giving me chills.
there's that as well. It's being hidden on purpose, maybe.
What isn't hidden though, do you know? And I think that's definitely not off the table, is it? You know, are we ever told the full truth about anything? You know, I'm certain I should be reading a UAP report from the American Congress on Halloween, and it's now what? I don't even know what day it is, but you know, nothing follows what it should follow. We were talking about how Bigfoot or big guys and girls. Hi Karen, hi Matt, hi Abby, hi everybody else that's joined the chat. Hi Michael. When I was looking into how like that they behave in their habitat with the trees that fall down, there was a project that went out into a certain woods where they found their nests, and when they took samples from that nest, apparently it was the Olympic project. My notes are saying they had primatologists study, and with the conclusion being that they appear to have been created by primates. So there's these little type projects, but again, does it rewind back to that bit of, you know, whoever they are, give us a little bit. It's like carrot and stick. They give us a little bit of evidence to keep the guessing game. And because from a business perspective, probably Bigfoot is a real big tourist draw, and it must be quite a significant money trap, wouldn't it?
Yeah, although
would have thought so.
they take Bigfoot very seriously in a lot of these little tiny sort of tribal areas and things. You know, it's seen as a very much a spiritual being and one that's been around since, you know, time immemorial, and something that shouldn't be messed with. And really there's that acceptance of it's a thing we live with, rather than it's a phenomenon or something that's not there. They take it as gospel, as it's just a being that they live in harmony with.
Mm.
I'd love to see one, but I think I'd shit myself and stop breathing.
That's
Probably.
what I find so
swearing
interesting
out
about
loud.
some of the reports or some of the footage that I've seen. Is like the person's out walking their dog. Why isn't their dog going crazy? Why aren't they shitting themselves and running? Because I would. There's no way I'd be able to stand there going in between the trees trying to get a video. I'd be out of there.
And there's quite clearly lots of videos out there on YouTube of, you know, Dave dressed in a great big gorilla costume doing this, you know.
Go on, Dave.
So there's many hoaxes out there as well, you know, of quite clearly people, and sometimes in the most ridiculously terrible gorilla costumes, you know, trying to prove that Bigfoot or Yeti or Sasquatch or Nantinuk, you know, exists, but we're not sure.
Do you think though, as well, because I often wonder this about a number of different areas, do you think that the mysterious they plant some of these really faked up videos to go, look at all these crazy people believing in this, it's clearly nonsense, look, we can easily debunk it, you know, because there's lots of different things, you know, to like cast doubts on the seriousness of this, or to just be like, it's okay, you can carry on ignoring this because it's obviously faked, you know, by like leaking something, or even sometimes quite cleverly faked stuff and handing it out into, you know, various forums and letting it kind of spread, and then going, oh look, they all believe this, but it's fake and we can prove it, you know.
Disinformation,
like,
isn't it? It's
discrediting. That's the word I'm looking for.
100%. And you know, throughout all the different areas of the phenomenon and high strangeness that we all like, you know, there's always that in the back of my head what if we're just being told this? I'm hearing myself. I've got an echo. I can't. They're listening. Hi, Feds. No, I can. I can hear myself. That's really.
It's the echo, isn't it? So distracting.
It's not normally clock. Anyway, so as I was saying before, I thought GCHQ started listening because, you know, of course they must be monitoring us. I've forgotten what I'm saying now. It's gone. That freaked me out. What disinformation. There's a part of me when I go down some rabbit holes and I have the pleasure that I communicate with people all over the world. What if it is planted disinformation and I've got too invested? And I was very lucky to meet, you know, a well-known guy in the sort of U.F.O, UAP world. And, you know, he was in part worked for the government in America, and part of his job was to be a disinformation person. And when I spoke to that person, I was just so, is it real or is it not? And that's the one part of when we investigate these subjects. Sometimes it is hard to separate, use discernment. That's the right word, isn't it? Because as Lucy said, there is a strong possibility that, you know, Dave in a gorilla suit with, you know, John at the FBI who's taking the video and, you know, distributing it.
Wouldn't that just be the simplest way as well to discredit it?
Yeah.
You know, if you wanted to stop people looking into something, and, you know, I'm not leading into any kind of, I have no idea why you would want to hide something, or, you know, even if it's real, but wouldn't it just be, for any subject whatsoever, the simplest way to discredit it would be to throw a load of fake videos of whatever it was and then discredit those? You know, it's like, it's stacking it up yourself, isn't it? Well, I'll give something and then I'll discredit this. Oh, there we go. Don't look over at that one. I can't discredit it, but this one I can.
Yeah.
You know,
there was in 2017, and this didn't make me giggle, but a shaman wearing clothing made of animal fur was vacationing, holidaying for our UK friends in the Carolinas, one of the forests, when loads of reports flooded in. And I think that sometimes we go to these places to experience something, and, you know, your imagination can sometimes paint a picture. And I was talking to my son about this the other week. I'm absolutely terrified of peacocks. I mean, to the point I would rather, like, I just hate them. And the reason I hate them is when we were a kid, we went to like a holiday camp in Pwllheli in Wales, and we were at the beach and we saw a mermaid. I mean, we seen its tail flipping, its lovely aerial hair. I seen a fully fledged mermaid, coconut bra, the works. And I ran like the clappers to get me mum, and a peacock chased me. And it chased me the entire way back to my mum. And I was screaming and thought I was going to die. And thinking about it, I don't think it was a mermaid. I think it was a sea lion. But because we'd been going, oh, I'm going to see mermaids, it's going to be fabulous. So in my head, I've got this distinct memory of this Ariel-esque tale. I'm sure there was like music playing as well. And really, it was probably just a little sea lion chilling on a rock. And my desire to see something preceded reality. But I still hate peacocks. Just, they need their cryptids. Them horrible. Sorry, I hate them.
Poor peacocks.
No, the vile. Nasty. Oh, no, we go there. Anyway, so Bigfoot, that's a very well-known one. What is our thoughts on the Loch Ness Monster? Natalie, you share. I've got to stop calling you
That's
Natalie.
a really old one, isn't it? That's been going for like, what, over a millennia? Sightings of that one?
Let's bring him up.
So
these were some of the pictures that Nat shared with us. This fella in the middle with that hat on, those eyes, really gives me.
He's horrible, isn't he?
But isn't there a guy that's like lives on the bank of Loch Ness still in his like caravan?
Yeah.
Like, come on, Dave, you've been there 50 years now, love. Come on, get a real job. But again, surely we would have found something conclusive. What's our thoughts on Nessie?
Well, I've written a research paper on Nessie. Now, the picture that you can see in front of you now, the picture on the right, so that very old picture that has been about for years and years and years of supposedly Nessie in the water that looks a bit like an upside down sort of leg of some sort of chest or something. Some of the research that I did showed that during the time that this picture was taken, and I think it was taken sort of 40s, 50s time, there was a lot of travelling circus shows going round Scotland. And one of the things that they used to do in the travelling circus is get the animals cleaned and having a wash and a bath in the lochs. So, yeah. So if you compare the picture on the left, which is actually an elephant, right underneath some water with its trunk out to breathe, it looks exactly the same as that picture that's been reportedly being Nessie. And I think of the conclusions that I came to looking at the evidence in the paper that I wrote, to me, that seems quite a plausible explanation of that particular moment in time.
You've just ruined Dave's life, mate. He's been on the bank for that long. For 50 years, selling his wares with his snorkel on. Boom.
Certainly when it comes to tourism, Nessie is a story that is very important to people up there. You know, there's Nessie museums everywhere you go. There's little green Nessies you can buy, etc., etc. I've had the privilege of going round Loch Ness quite a few times, never seen Nessie yet. I've viewed it from Urquhart Castle and from on the loch, etc. But again, there's no definitive proof. There's a lot of suggestions out there to do with, it's leaves in the water, it's an otter, lots of different things. But who knows? We don't know. Do I believe that there is a plesiosaur in
what?
A plesiosaur.
It sounds like something you go to a clinic for.
Dinosaur.
Yeah, it's a type of dinosaur that they think Nessie is, a plesiosaur. Did you never watch The Family Nest when you were little?
Having the childhood that I had, I think they filmed the no.
So do I think there's a dinosaur of some sort still living in Loch Ness? From the research that I did, I don't think so.
Does it have to be two of them to be procreating?
Mm-hmm. And what do they eat? That was my thing as well. If it's an aquatic creature, it's got to be having stuff in the lake. If it's a massive aquatic creature, it needs a lot of something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That was always mine for it.
What we're seeing is a variety of people's interpretations of an elephant having a bath, some leaves or a bit of twig sticking up, the wash. I'm glad I amused you, Holly.
It's just the way you've said it. So it's an elephant, having a bath. Because in this day and age, we don't see, and I'm sure I can speak for all of us, we would be fully against any animal circuses anyway. But it's not something we see. But back in that time, it was very common.
It was very common for travelling carnivals around Scotland. That's how they would bathe all of their animals on the banks of the loch. And obviously a size of an elephant would need to go in a bit deeper to get a good wash, and it would stick its trunk out to be able to breathe. And actually, when you compare the two pictures, it does look very much like an elephant's trunk.
So going to a cryptid, I think I get confused between a mythical creature and a cryptid, which is something we probably should look into. But my granddad was a sailor. He was in the Navy. He was in the Merchant Navy, and he was in the Navy, and he travelled the world. He was only ever home for a couple of months. My nana'd fall pregnant, and then he'd be back off to sea again for another year, and would come back when baby was born. And of that generation, a lot of men did go out to sea post the war. And he used to tell us about this island called Tristan da Cunha. And I think that's in the Pacific. It's near Helena, where we put, what's that little fella French guy called?
The little fella French guy. That
The
doesn't
little
narrow.
war guy. Napoleon. Him.
Oh,
That's where they sent him. Welcome to my world. That's
I
where they
don't know
sent
how
him
we
to exile.
deduced
Little
that,
French,
but there we go.
little French guy. Well, that's where they exiled him on Helena. And so Tristan da Cunha is the next one down, and it's really there's no only way to get there is through ships. And there's no, I don't think they even have there's not an airstrip there. I think it's still by boat. And he told me when they were sailing the seven seas, the tale of the giant squid.
The
And
Kraken.
it would terrify me. And he'd be like, and you'd see its tentacles. Get to bed, we'll get the giant squid. So we believed it lived down the drains, and it was just, and I think that's why I'm scared of big beastly creatures. And about 4 years ago, pre the time we don't talk of, Jensen, my son, went, Mum, they found a giant squid. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And he was watching something, it's some like National Geographic something, the Oceanic Project,
Yeah.
and it captured the giant squid. And it was
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
They're like
was huge.
40 foot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
Massive
that's a
size.
real thing.
It's real. And
Yeah.
you know, we discovered that through technology. So is there propensity or possibility that maybe technology of the future that perhaps, picks up on dimensionally things, could we perhaps maybe find something else? Because another one was the
I've got a story
platypus.
that'll tie in there as well.
Go on. Go
Well,
for it, Liz.
it's technology. So I think this is a story from Vietnam, the Vietnam War. If that was, and please nobody don't write in if I'm wrong here, but I think that was when they first started trialing night vision goggles.
Wow.
But wherever it was that they first started trialing them, at first, everything is green in night vision. When they first used them, it was red. And they gave all these out to the soldiers, and the soldiers all started freaking out because what they could see in the trees were these like demonic looking sharp-toothed clawed creatures all sat there in the trees on the battlefield. So they were all freaking out. They were like, right, we're gonna have to take all these goggles back. This is, the troops are just like, I'm not going out there. So literally something. And the suggestion being that these might have been alternate dimensional beings, perhaps something that feeds on conflict, or some kind of energetic vampire type of creature. And all of a sudden they could see them. So presumably that's what cats are, getting excited about. Things that you can't see. Yeah. I was like, whoa, can you imagine though? You put your night vision goggles on and be like, fantastic. And then you're like, the hell is that in the tree?
I'm scared, Natalie. You're going to have to come to mine again at 2 a.m.
Oh my
Lucy,
God,
you
I'm never
scared
getting
me.
night vision goggles
I've been
ever.
called to yours at 2 a.m.
She has been called to mine at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
You've got plenty of cats though, Holly, because so if there's anything there, they'll see it. They'll tell you.
But there's that argument, isn't there, that we only see this much, and the spectrum of
Huge.
is huge.
Even birds can basically see the Earth's geomagnetic field. They use it like GPS. We can't see it. There's a shrimp that can see like a spectrum like that of color. A shrimp, which apparently is like really poisonous or something called, I don't know. But it's like, and we can only see that much in terms of the color spectrum. A shrimp underwater that much.
Like a little
Why
shrimp.
though? What's the need? It's so dark down there, which is like going back to the Mariana Trench and all the stuff that's down there and 40 feet squid. Stuff can hide down there quite easily. It doesn't need any kind of multi-dimensional stuff. I mean, it's so hard to find. Equipment won't work so far down underwater anyway. Well, certainly not the equipment.
Scratched the surface, haven't we, of discovering what's in the ocean?
100%. And I don't know if I shared it on my Facebook, and I'll bob it onto the Wyrde Sister page. Have you ever seen a picture of the Earth, our home, taken from its mostly waterside? So it's, is it the Pacific Ocean? It's the biggest ocean. So there's the
Yeah,
way
it's
of
like
capturing
half
the
the
earth, and it literally is, because we're so prescribed this notion of the map as we see it, and the countries are all the wrong size. Like Africa's tiny compared to how actual huge that continent is, as we all know. But again, that's by design. It showed this sort of arse end of the earth, and it's just one big ocean. And
Yeah.
you know, I believe I'm right in saying we know more about space than we know what's in our own waters. You know, was it? And I don't know if someone in the chat might know. Hi, Debs. Hi, Karen. Hi, Tess. Haven't they? And friends of ours, Nat shared it. I think it was Dan or Vinny shared it on. They did a podcast with an eminent scientist. How whales have got something in their brains that suggests consciousness or something. And don't quote me because I'm not right, but like some kind of something. You know, whales have been around for ever. Oh, crazy, isn't it?
So cockroaches, though, which freaks me out. Like even in like nuclear fallout situation, cockroaches would still survive.
Yeah.
So the earth is just going to be run by cockroaches and whales. That's
Isn't it
it.
already? Oh.
Probably is. Dolphins. They're the ones to watch. That's what
Do you
I always
know?
want to know, why we're not allowed to kind of commune with dolphins in the wild.
Dolphins are scary, by the way. All this whole like Disney swimming with them. I swam with a bloody free one in the Atlantic, and he was friggin' terrifying. Ugh. He was called Fungi. There was no fun in his gi, but I wasn't in the tin. But there were studies years ago. I read this not long ago. Oh, there were studies years ago. I think it was a Japanese professor. Could be wrong. So again, please don't write in. Where where pregnant women were going into a space with dolphins, and it was really that the dolphins were getting a bit naughty with it because their sonar was doing something, and they had a full. It seemed like they had a conscious awareness of what baby was doing.
The baby, they
So
were trying to communicate with the baby
that's
in
it.
the womb.
Yeah, and they
Yeah,
like didn't
using
give a.
sonar
They didn't.
or
I think
something.
didn't it have to get stopped because the like dolphin was getting a bit saucy with the woman. There was something ridiculous because it made me absolutely howl. I'm gonna Google
Apparently,
it.
it's
course,
good for the birthing
dolphins.
experience. Really calming birthing experience to give birth around dolphins. They just chill you out and
I've read people who do that.
pain-free births.
That's some Mariah Carey shit though, innit? Like shipping in some dolphins to put one in the bath while you're giving birth.
There's not many dolphins at the Liverpool Women's Hospital to help give birth with that I know of.
They wouldn't fit in a birthing pool anyway.
No.
Yeah, I've read about women
And I wouldn't go in the Mersey
going
with
into the
one.
ocean
Oh.
and giving birth in the ocean with dolphins around and talking about this real kind of like spiritual communing experience they've had. Like not just shipping yourself out there and throwing yourself in with a load of random dolphins, but sort of going while pregnant, getting to know a particular pod. And that pod comes when it's time for her to give birth, and they all hang around, and you know, it is, they were like, yeah, we have spiritual experience and talk to them and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, wow, I don't fancy it, but amazing. Bit cold for me, I think.
Yeah.
The ocean.
One of our one of the guys watching us, we've only delved into 10% of our oceans. We don't have the tech or the want currently to go any further, or that's what they say to the public. Dun dun dun. But yeah, somehow I've steered us into the realms of dolphins, which aren't cryptids. They are real animals, people. They're definitely confirmed to exist. I've seen one close up. I'm dead scared to move on to this bit. I really am scared, but I'm gonna do it. And if any of my lights pop or there's a noise, sorry anyone listening, sorry to future listening, I'm out. See ya, shadow people. What are they? Why are they? Am I gonna get killed? What do you guys think they are?
Entities,
The what?
for sure. Supernatural entities.
So-
They're normally a black mass or a actual figure, quite often seen with a hat on.
Would you include like characters like Spring-Heeled Jack as a shadow person?
I don't know. Probably. I don't think, because Spring-Heeled Jack I've also written an article about, and he was kind of different from the kind of shadow people I think that we're kind of touching on now. He was a strange oddity with Spring-Heeled Jack, but I wouldn't quite class him in the realms of a shadow person personally. Many shadow people now we've managed to catch on video and quite clear shadow people, which is very creepy because normally they peer round doors.
Oh, you best be at my house in an hour.
Which is
I've
really
got my front door open as well. I'm right opposite it.
Oh,
I'm
lock the door.
down.
But see our reaction.
I'm closing the door on the windows. Fuck this.
So it is very, very common for a shadow person to be seen with a hat on. And this is a phenomenon that has gone on over many, 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 many years. They normally are seen with glowing eyes, whether that be red or yellow, evoke a real sense of fear in people, and just terror. So a lot of people will say that they become almost paralyzed during it because it's so
Sorry, just to stop you, Nat.
Mm.
Alyssa, have you been kidnapped by a shadow man? No, she's back. Woo!
I'm good.
Everyone is accounted
now, so I'm
for.
like, whew, I can chill. If the dog barks at anything, I know nothing's coming to get me.
I will just bob in. A friend of mine, Michael's in the chat, and he's an author, and he mentions he talks about shadow people. So Michael, I'm going to read your book and maybe be less scared. So thanks for hopping into the chat. And he also talks about this Spring-Heeled Jack. So I will be checking.
Who was last seen in Liverpool?
Yeah.
Great. Adios.
Yeah.
Not down your neck of the woods. Yeah, he's a good one, isn't he? Because he was like almost a celebrity to Victorian England. They were really keen on him, and he spawned like loads of penny dreadfuls and all kinds of stuff. But they had him, like kind of knocking on the door and the servant girl answering, and then there's Spring-Heeled Jack breathing fire and
blue fire.
Blue fire. Yeah, what on earth?
Yeah.
There's too many reports. I don't know if it could have been all the same entity, but there's too many reports that are too similar. And you're like, well, what's that?
Spring-Heeled Jack.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mad.
I remember reading about Spring-Heeled Jack, like kind of jumping over the roofs of the houses on Rodney Street, and I lived at 88 Rodney Street, right in the attic apartment above all these consulting rooms. And I was just like, okay, I need to put this book down now. Getting a bit freaked out. And you hear noises on the roof, like it's just a seagull. Just a seagull.
Yeah.
Just banging downstairs. Oh, fucking hell. Please let it be Kirsten Jensen.
Yeah.
I die because of this podcast. That's it. I'm done with you all. I'm coming back and I'm haunting the life out of you. I mean, Pulse.
And then we'll do a show about you.
Well, yeah, I'll still be relevant. So I'm just brought it up here. This fella, Spring-Heeled Jack, he wore sharp metallic claws at his fingertips.
Yeah.
He could breathe out blue and white flames.
Yeah.
And he was like bouncing around roofs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And he was like, wow.
Many do believe, though, he was a real person who was just a little bit not well, shall we say, who was very nimble and quite often would jump off roofs and sheds and stuff like that. Where the breathing of the fire comes, I'm not quite sure, but there is some talk of people believing that it was lit alcohol.
Yeah, because it was
like a sambuca. It goes, and it was part of his scare tactics to be able to blow funny coloured flames at people. And there were quite a few names put forward as to who Spring-Heeled Jack was, but it was never actually proven who it was. and then he sprung his way up to Liverpool.
He was springing around all over the place, wasn't he?
Yeah, predominantly in London, but then latterly up north. And I think someone's just put in the chat that Tom Slemon, the local writer in Liverpool, writes a lot about Spring-Heeled Jack and Rodney Street and the likes of, where he was seen, and in Everton, I think, in quite a few on top of church roofs in Everton somewhere.
He was busy man. Busy guy.
I know.
You've just brought up Rodney Street. You know, we've all lived in Liverpool and have done and come back. You know, as you're walking down Bold Street, and for anyone that's not from here, it's a very well-known street. It's where Richard Branson had one of the first Virgin mega stores. It was where all the mods hung out. It was the kind of alternative street of Liverpool, and it's where one of our underground sort of tube underground trains is. And there's a lot of bless you. There's a lot of folklore that down Bold Street is on a time loop. Have you ever heard of that? And I heard that through Tom Salmon's books, because it's something to do with the electricity of the trains and the quartz and the sandstone on which Liverpool's essentially built on, that the electric and the crystal.
Yeah.
So maybe Spring-Heeled Jack has sprung into another time zone and is springing round the parallel universe, because he better not be knocking on here.
Holly, but not very far from your house.
Oh no, stop
in
that.
Sandfield Road.
No.
Gatwick Brow.
Oh look, she's froze my mystical powers. Don't mess with a witch, baby. Look at that. Froze you.
I know.
Nat, you completely froze then.
Oh, I must have been in the time slip. Yeah.
I think I froze you tonight. Go on, tell me. So there's something around my house and I'm going to die. Great.
Well, no, I didn't say that. You are prone to exaggeration, Miss Holly.
Me?
Yes. So Tom Slemon will write about Gatwick Brow, which is halfway between my house and Holly's house. We live very close together.
No one's because we've got nothing to offer.
That one of the little side roads off the Brow, there is a time slip very similar to the one on Bold Street.
Oh, so there's no scary men that breathe fire. I'm all right with time slips. I've been on a few myself over the years.
But what there is a horse and carriage that goes up Gatwick Brow. Now, legend says if you look at that horse and carriage, you will die a nasty death within 24 hours.
Are you joking?
No, I'm not.
Natalie will no longer be on the show because she killed Holly with fright. Wow. Okay, now we're on the subject.
That reminds me actually of some other stuff that I was looking at this week, which was people going, stories of like that look at the thing and you'll die a nasty death. Oh, the woman in white, she'll appear and then, you'll
Lady in grey.
Whatever, that kind of stuff. And it's like, what if that is actually like an entity which is preying on people? And they've learned, that you see them and then someone goes missing. And it's like, it is actually linked. It's not like, a mysterious harbinger of doom. It's like, it's the doom itself. I'm not saying that's happening with the horse and carriage, but,
The last known person to die who saw it was in, I think, 1988. So if you're on Gatwick Brow, Holly, shut your eyes if you see a horse and cart.
Well, interestingly.
Even if you hear hooves, just like...
And then people like shutting their eyes and then like stumbling into the road, is it? And that kind of thing.
Oh, well. So, and Lucy used to live up this neck of the woods, so you probably know where we're describing. So, I used to live in another house a little bit further down, sort of Grange Lane ways. And I always, because it's no secret, you use as my really good friends. I don't sleep really, so I'm always normally awake at 2 or 4 in the morning. I know I send texts, I'm sorry. And I always used to hear a train. And I didn't grow up here. It was of no it was just a train. And running parallel to my house at the bottom is something we locally call the Ralla, but it's the Transpennine walk from here, from Southport to Hull. But it used to be the train station. like a train line to, a normal train line back in the day. We were having drinks with our neighbours one night, and we're 10 sheets to the wind, and I was like, that train, I always hear it. And our neighbours went, what train? And I was like, the train, I always hear it here, the woo, and the full and it didn't dawn on me. There's no train station in Gattaca.
No train station anywhere near where we live.
Nope. And I thought they were just messing with me for a good hour, because girls, you know what I'm like. I know what I know, and you're not changing my mind. So I was like, you're all really bad people. Don't bother speaking to me again. Full on drop. Bye. And when they were like, seriously, and then I'm like Googling it, going, the nearest train station's how Hunts Cross. Would it travel? No. So for a really long time, I'd heard that train. So as long as I'm hearing a train and not hooves, we're good.
You're okay.
So back to shadow people.
Oh yes.
Right, we've done Al Jack, whoever he's called. He's bunned off.
Real Jack.
Yeah.
So if I can go on the reverse side to shadow people.
Yeah.
Some of the explanations that are out there as to why we see shadow people. There's obviously been a lot of scientific research done on shadow people per se. And it's been shown that certain types of medicine can make you feel and see things that aren't there.
The good medicine.
Yeah, the stuff you've been on for having
no comment, Your Honour.
Obviously things mental health conditions like schizophrenia, things like that, can sometimes have hallucinations, auditory and a visual thing as well. There was some research done, I think in Sweden, looking at brain science, and it was actually a study that was done to look at epilepsy originally, and looking at fits. But what they found was an area of the brain, the left temporal junction, doesn't work in the right apparently, but in the left side, when you stimulate that particular area of the brain, a lot of people reported seeing shadows out the corner of their eyes. So methamphetamines, drugs like that can cause stimulation in that part of the brain and can sometimes result in people feeling that they can see things. It causes apparently a feeling that you're being watched.
We've intercepted her again. We got two being watched. You're deaf. No, because you've shipped me up about people coming around with hooves. I'm telling you, your house is bugged. How about them?
Yeah, so it causes that when you think someone's behind you or someone's looking at you, that stimulation of that area of the brain can cause that feeling in humans. So there is that train of thought that sleep paralysis, which is a medical condition where people find that they're awake and conscious but can't physically move, which must be so scary, is what people who see shadow people are in, sleep paralysis. But saying that, the research that I've read on it, I'm not sure that I think maybe in some cases there are explanations, mental health and all those other things I've talked about, and drugs and various different things, but there's something going on there. There's also a link, to bring it back to our favorite topic of aliens, as to whether a shadow person is a form of alien. Dave Horridon of Birmingham U.F.O group did this really excellent
great guy.
On screen memories and how alien beings perhaps can change our perception. So we're not scared when we see a grey alien or a reptile or something scary. They can turn into something a little different.
Palatable.
Whether that be a clown, although that would freak me out completely. Having just watched The Terrifier 2.
Totally watched.
Or an owl.
Oh, no, not. It keeps cracking on us. Because you're letting too many secrets out.
I know, it must be. So perhaps, it's alien in manifestation. Is it a ghost? We don't know. Often people report feeling absolutely terrified, which you would do, I think, if you saw some black being with a hat on with red eyes looking at you. You know, is it demonic in nature? Is that what people are seeing? Is it an astral projection of somebody?
That's one area that interested me, and I know, you know, Lucy and I have spoke about the astral. You know, we've all spoke about it. You know, are they just visitors from another place that just frequency can't quite? It's like, you know, when you tune in a radio dial, we just can't quite, and we're just getting a little bit of interface from them. And what really struck the echoes back. Hi everyone. What really struck me is seeing the things I did as a kid. I never seen no dude with no hat on, never seen no weird eyes, but I definitely was aware of. Didn't have the vocabulary probably back then, but persons, beings, shapes that looked like a human, but like dark, opaque. Is that the right word? Mist type thing. And, you know, are they time travelers? Are they beings from another plane dropping in? Are they, you know, interdimensional? Are they part of the spectrum of light that we just can't tap into? Has there ever been, and it may be something to have a Google on, has there ever been any that we know of, like where they've like physically interacted? So someone people in our chat are talking about something called the hag. Is that connected to shadow people, or is that
like a succubus type of thing, or
it's like a shadow being, but it's like an old hag who like will sit on your chest and, you know, make you feel like you can't breathe, etc. It's kind of the same ilk. But the thing for me with the shadow people is the fact that I've seen many really good pieces of evidence caught on video and on camera of black mist, black entities, and actually the guy in the hat himself has been caught on various bits of.
Don't show me that. Does he look like the Hamburglar? Remember McDonald's used to have that Hamburglar? Does he look like him?
Freaking out so much.
A black
version,
there was another bang. A black version of that. But his hat is very, very defined. Very, very defined. On these
is it like
things.
a kind of Victorian type of thing? Yeah. What happened in the Victorian age? Because that seems to be like the time that a lot of time slips go back to, or a lot of kind of costumes come through in either ghostly things or shadow things. It's Victorian, spring-heeled Jack, Victorian. What happened in the Victorian age?
Yeah.
Did they have like an ancient version of the Boson Higgs thing, or?
And you
do get a lot of army ones like that though as well. So you will come back to it, but just really quick, where like you'll have soldiers, they're chatting to somebody and then they start to realize the insignia is one that's no longer in use, and this, you know, they're chatting to this dude, or it'll just be subtly not quite right, but you know they're talking and they'll be like, you know, you get like a sense that something isn't quite right with this person, or they'll give them like a drink and they'll hold it but they don't know what to do with it, and you know the insignia is not quite right. And there's been a lot of kind of speculation, are they ghosts coming back, or are they trying to impersonate someone? There's a lot of confusion, and then these people will just vanish again, you know, you look and they've gone, you know, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot, like you say, Elisa, lots of Victorian stuff. Maybe because it's like it was a long period in history, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the costume is very easy to distinguish. And then again, like for army dudes, they're going to pick up on that. They're going to pick up on the insignia or things not being quite right, or that's an old one, you know. So it's like, maybe something specific.
Do you think though that these beings, these entities, ghosts, you know, these whatever, can appear for the good? And the reason I ask, when my son was 2, we were on holiday, and we're a very accident-prone family. Natalie can attest to that. She's our personal nurse, basically. She's our medical professional. I've done this again. I've done this.
Yeah.
We were away on holiday in the Balearic Isles. No lying, we were on an island somewhere that was hot. And my son swallowed the top of a plastic spoon, and it covered his esophagus. And he was dying in front of me, and it wasn't coming out, and it just wasn't. And this lady appeared with blonde hair. Honestly, it's so stereotypical. She appeared like she looked really old, but didn't carry herself elderly. And she had the whitest, bluntest bob you've ever seen. And she appeared, and I can remember her saying, "I am a nurse, I will help." And she bopped Jensen, and he threw up, and the spoon went down, and he threw it. And we knew at that point his airway was clear, and we got to the hospital. No one else can remember seeing that woman.
No.
No one. Chris remembers people tapping Jensen, but I distinctly remember her. I remember the lines on her face, the bluntest, almost wig-like, that it was so perfect. In women of that age, and no disrespect, I'm going to be a woman of that age one day. Your hair changes its texture.
It
was perfect. And when we came back from the hospital, I searched that house. When I say that complex, I was on a mission, and you girls know what I'm like. When I want something, I'm finding it. And I searched high and low for that woman, and she was nowhere to be found. And I just think to myself, who was she? An angel? Was she my guide? Was it someone from another celestial place that took over a human's body, did what needed to be done, and then went? So do you think there's a flip side to the shadow people? Is there something in the light? Lucy, what do you think?
I'm getting shivers down my spine there. So I think, yeah, there probably will be. I think it only stands to reason in some ways. You know, it's everything's polarity and duality and balance. There's also lots of reports of people talking to angels, you know, and whatever the angels may be, like say Archangel Michael. There's tons of people who've spoken to it, and he's really helped them out, and you know, all these kind of reports that, you know, whatever he might actually be, however they're viewing him through their own lens, it's an entity which is trying to assist, or seems to be. So it absolutely wouldn't surprise me. I think you do get reports of, oh, a stranger turned up, did this, showed me that way. This again, I've read ones of that, you know, I was lost and somebody turned up and showed me the way to go, and then I was saying, who was that ranger? Oh, there's nobody who works up there, you know, that kind of stuff. So I think there are, but probably as well with saying that generally people tend to be very frightened when they see like the shadow people, the dark things. I think you sense this is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, but it's that same kind of, or like an air of trust, like you. I can't imagine as well, no matter what state Jensen was in, I can't imagine you just being like, oh, yeah, sure, just go ahead, unless this person radiated a real like sense of for you to trust them.
It was just
yeah.
And I think, you know, the child that I had, my mum was very funny about intervention, anything medical, really. Obviously, she took me to the doctors. I was really sick, but we just weren't really, just wasn't something that we moved a lot as well. So we just didn't really do that often, really. So I have a big, if someone's medical, poor Nat, if someone's got medical in them, to me, I deem them as very safe, not dangerous people. And I have big insecurities around safe people in my life. And it was like this. She went, I am a nurse. And I don't know if it was out loud or in my head, but I knew, oh, cool. Because no one's punching my kid without me. I'm punching you hard. And she just, boof, and it was over within seconds. And then she wasn't
there. If you think of it being
like
a being of light, they would have known, this is what Holly needs to hear in order for me to be able to help. This is the key for me to be able to interact and do something positive. Because otherwise, she's not having any of it, and the energy needs to be right in order for me to come in and help. And sometimes things like that have happened to me as well, where it's like, I'm not too sure that was actually out loud. I think it was just like clairaudience or clairsentience, where you get a feeling and you know, or you hear something and you're kind of like pretty sure, I mean, was that out loud or not, or what? Or I've had something like that waking me up before. It's like wake up and it's a man's voice, and I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? There's no men in the house. He was Yorkshireman as well. Whoa.
Did you have to, was there a part when you woke up, was there something that you needed to be awake for? It was, or, you know, were they just waking
Yeah,
you
but I
up
think
to
it was
fuck
only
with
like
you?
work or something, and I'd slept through an alarm. It was really weird, but it wasn't like it wasn't like, you know, there was
An
something on fire
emergency.
downstairs in the kitchen or something.
That's crazy. That
Yeah.
takes you back though to the whole,
Yeah.
the phenomena on the whole has intelligence, which nicely segue into the subject I know Nat's desperate to get into. I feel like we need like a drum roll. And we will touch on mythical creatures because, of course, I want a pet unicorn and a fairy. Ovs.
Oh, do you drum roll?
Ready? Go on. Dun, 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 dun. The Skinwalker. So, without causing a complete craziness,
Yes,
this is a subject that you got me into.
I did.
And then I lost, was it 4 days of my life? Didn't sleep and go to bed.
And your mind.
And my mind.
Yeah.
Because I'm always late to the party because I'm in a party of my own most of the time. And being, you know, in the U.F.O community, the UAP community, Skinwalker Ranch kept coming up time and time again. And I was like, oh, I'll discover it when I discover it. And Nat was in my house and she was like, watch it. And I was like, it's because I'm scared of monsters, really. So I was like, ain't for me. Like, no. And then I watched it and was hooked. So the Skinwalker, this is probably a bit small for everyone to see. It stems from sort of indigenous Navajo culture. And would this be deemed a cryptid or a mythical creature? Which
Cryptid.
so it would be a cryptid.
Yeah.
Oh. So should we delve a little bit in? We'll probably do one whole show on Skinwalker and Skinwalker Ranch. But one of our friends, one of our people in the chat, Jeff Knox, has spent 3 weeks out in Skinwalker Ranch investigating, camping out at the corner of the property on the public side of the fence.
I'm
Jeff
so
will
jealous.
have to let us know what happened. Me and Natalie have been, I think we've been like ready to go quite a few times. Lucy, Elisa, do you know about Skinwalker Ranch? Is it something that's been on your radar?
I don't know a lot about Skinwalker Ranch, only that animals have, like cattle have turned up like in pretty poor shape, and it's a little bit inexplicable.
Crazy.
And then, you know, it's changed hands, and somebody who was like a UFO enthusiast like bought the ranch or something, and now it's in the hands of people who, I don't know if they've completely shut it off or they do tours there. I don't know what happens now. So
I'll give you the
yeah, but that's
background.
all I know.
Over to Nat. Oh, just jump
We're
in.
gonna
Jeff,
find out.
we're going to find out right now. Jeff said he's between 2015, 2020. My dog freaks out every time, but it's because of the big, crazy black neighborhood dogs. Jeff, I am going to hook up with you on Facebook to have a little bit more of a chat because friends of Nat and I have been out there. Friends of mine are wanting to go out there, but Nat, over to you, girl.
Yeah. We will get out there someday.
I'm going.
Holly. Yeah.
Telling you.
So just going back to the Skinwalker, the legend of the Skinwalker, before we move on to the ranch kind of thing. So loosely translated, it means to walk on all fours. And Skinwalker Ranch is in Utah in the States, and is this huge, great big.
No.
Did I freeze it then? That is weird.
H.I.C.E.
I know. So yeah, Skinwalker Ranch in Utah.
That's Bigelow, that mate. He's got you trapped.
A huge, massive, big place that has all kinds of weird shit going on. There's UFOs seen there. There's ghosty stuff that goes on there.
Electromagnetic, weird.
Yeah,
stuff.
all kinds of weird phenomenon. that goes on there, and it has done for a long time. The skinwalker is allegedly a being that can sort of transform itself into a variety of different creatures. Mainly a wolf is mainly the one that you hear about, although it's about 4 or 5 times bigger than your average wolf. So a lot of the cattle on Skinwalker Ranch have been got at. There's a lot of cattle mutilations. So in terms of those mutilations, the cattle are found without an ounce of blood in the body, and yet there's no sort of like, you know, big wound in its neck or anything that shows that it's bled out. It's almost as if the blood has been extracted from it somehow.
Isn't it right at the moment though, Nat? Fugal has the guy who owns the property now. He took it over from Bigelow. On the program, they use the cattle as biosensors. Is that the right word? So
absolutely.
The cows tend to flip out and act in unusual ways as the trickster phenomenon, the whatever it is, starts to mess. Is probably the right word.
Yeah, absolutely. They watch how the cattle move, and they sort of like will group off into different sides of the ranch and things when strange things are about to happen.
Again, does that come to the whole animals can see a wider spectrum? I don't really know what cows can see, but I'm presuming it's probably different eyesight. I'm going to look that up while you're talking.
Yeah. So quite often they say a skinwalker, if you come into contact with them, the first thing you'll notice is a real stench of rotten flesh, like the worst of the worst smells, apparently. They're quite often seen with yellow eyes. And they're also very good at climbing trees and sort of like, you know, doing a bit of spring-heeled jack and, you know, getting up and down and into positions your average wolf wouldn't normally go to. And they can quite often, they say, mimic the sound of humans, especially children, to sort of like lure people into it, really. They will also bang on windows and sort of doors and things to try and make contact with people. They're coming to yours later tonight. And there are stories of skinwalkers actually digging up dead bodies in graveyards and extracting bodies. And the mere sight of a skinwalker can result in sort of paralysis and people actually passing out through, whether it's the stink or the fear of it. But going back to what Lucy was talking about before about good versus evil, there is a train of thought as well that people believe that originally skinwalkers were a positive thing and that they were a being that could protect people from evil, but over a period of time they've sort of become rogue almost.
Well, taken from the Navajos, wasn't it? That's where skinwalkers come from.
Yeah. So moving sort of like forward in time, Robert Bigelow owned the ranch for quite some time, and those who don't know Robert Bigelow, he's a big aerospace multimillionaire over in the States. So there was a lot of very secret squirrel stuff going on at the time of Bigelow on Skinwalker Ranch. A lot of the American government, CIA, FBI, all kinds of agencies.
Was the NIDS, wasn't it? It was NIDS was the sort of organisation that they'd put together to obtain proof of what was going on out there, because
there was a lot of experimentation going on, a lot of testing, but it was all done sort of very secret squirrel kind of thing, and a lot of stuff that couldn't be explained to this day. There's now a guy called Brendan Fugal who owns the ranch, and he is a property tycoon from over in the States, very, very rich, multimillionaire again.
Married.
But he's I know, not all that pleasing on the eye. Really.
Oh, bam.
Don't tell him I said that. He'll never let me in the ranch.
I've got a feeling that he might not be listening to this. Yeah.
Maybe not. But he's being very much open and transparent about the things that go on in the ranch. So there have been documentaries made on Skinwalker Ranch. And his experimentation, he very much shares with the world. And to this day, it's full of strange phenomenon that can't be explained. And it's like going down a rabbit hole, like you talk about, Holly. The more that you dig at it, the more unexplained questions and stuff that goes on.
It's the intelligence. It's the intelligence, and I think, you know, looking at it from, you know, is it a mythical creature? Is it, you know, an entity? You know, what's happening at that ranch is such a cross section of the entire. It's the one. But I think what I'm trying to say is, you know, we've got so many strands of this overarching phenomena that we've all got different areas of interest in, or everything that we, excuse me, everything that we like individually
merges
happens
there.
there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's no secret. I'm really into to do with consciousness and U.F.Os and extraterrestrial beings and all of that caper that happens there. The nuts and bolts, more people, things. You know, they did things with Tesla coils there and all kinds. You went off. It broadcasts a signal. The land is broadcasting a signal.
Yeah.
Like, why?
There's strange metallic elements that have been found underneath the mesa there that appear to be two elements fused on top of each other. And they're very, very rare elements. And it's like something that we would see on the space shuttle when it comes back in to land, you know, the what's the word I'm looking for? So it doesn't burn up, like the fire.
The re-entry stuff, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like,
it's very much very similar
Fire
to that.
retardant.
So
that's it.
yeah, that's underneath the mesa somewhere. But as Holly says, it's just this UFO, paranormal, cryptid mix.
Disneyland.
That just bends your head. And the sooner he lets me in there, the better, I think.
That it is paranormal Disneyland, isn't it?
Oh,
It is.
honestly.
But does it come back to... There's been speculation and criticism over the years, you know, that it's all a bit, you know, bing bong, whatever. And, you know, rooting back to what Lucy said, you know, a little while in the conversation, you go, are things purposely laid out in front of us to provide a different narrative to what is really going on? Like, I love a conspiracy theory. I can eat them for breakfast. But it's such a concentrated place. But the fact that it stems from, its name itself stems from a cryptid, the skinwalker, which my understanding was, and I think Jeff in the chat just backed it up, that the Navajos were cursed by the Utes. The
So they say.
Utes, yeah, where the skinwalker comes from. And, you know, we talked about indigenous peoples, you know, telling their tales, their generational tales of Bigfoot. The indigenous people have spoke of the skinwalker. How does it all weave together? How will we ever know if something, you know, will we ever be in a position that we'll be able to go check? Because what happens with Bigfoot, what happens with Nessie, what happens with the Mothman, what happens with that crazy worm of Madagascar that can eat your brains out, you know, the beast of Bodmin Moor, you know, all of these mythical creatures, and there's hundreds. We're never ever definitively ever going to get an answer.
No.
And that's what is the mind. And are they... Oh, please tell me she's not been taken by the shadow man. Right, that's it. Jack's at Elisa's house. If we thought this into existence. I'm actually
Got another one for you. Mongolian death worms.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, the sheer name of that just frightens you, doesn't it?
What do they do?
I mean, that sounds brilliant, isn't it?
I'm going to have a little look at that. A Mongolian. Lucy, you mentioned... Go on.
You won't like what they look like either, Holly.
No,
Mongolian death worm. Okay. Mongolian death.
It's something like limestone or something like that, and there's the big holes in it, and they kind of pop out of that, and they're like a massive kind of thing, you know, tremors.
Yes, that's exactly what one is.
Yeah.
They don't have them in
one.
Gattaca.
Yeah. No.
You'd be all right.
Wow.
That was another one where, you know, the army's out there and they're like, what the hell is that? And then the locals are like, oh, that's just a death worm, you know. You just get
These
them.
are right nasty little fellas, aren't they?
Yeah.
They look
Not
like
that little.
something off a spoof sort of, yeah, like Tremors, like a spoof sci-fi film. Lucy, you mentioned something before we bobbed on, and I definitely want to know a little bit more about it. And I'm going to research it a bit more about the giants of,
Afghanistan.
yeah, want to
Yeah.
touch on it?
It's, again, I'm not an expert. It's just one I've been hearing about, but there's loads of reports of them. And Afghanistan, I had never realised what an enormous country it was. I think, like we were saying before about the maps of the world that we see, yeah. But it's huge. Huge parts of it are incredibly rural, to the point that some of the people who live in these places don't even believe in the rest of the world. You can't understand how rural it is. Like the name for like an airplane, passes over, they just call them X's. They've no word for them, you know.
Wow.
And yet there have been tons of reports coming out. Obviously, it was an area of conflict. A lot of kind of Western armies in there, and tons of reports from these soldiers of having seen giants, like just enormous. So they would see them on you know, their infrared or their tracking. They would see them and they'd be able to tell what size they were and where they were, and be like,
Wow.
is the equipment malfunctioning? And then they'd start to see them. And this is one, what's the guy's name? Paul Orton, I think. He compiles a lot of this together. He said because the soldier, they've nobody to talk to. He said it's not so much that they're trying to hide it, it's more that you start talking about seeing a giant and that's going to affect your career somewhat. You know, people are going to think you're mad, you know, in a military situation, if you think your commanding officer's mad, it's a bit difficult to do what they say. So they just essentially don't really talk about it, but they have, because this guy is a serving soldier as well, or he was, and so they kind of pass it around. He just documents it, you know. And there's tons of them, often like red haired, or they'll be like, there was a whole thing about red hair as well, you know, and like there's something going on with sort of the locals understanding them, you know, where he said there was this one story where he said he noticed, some of them would notice that all of a sudden like the locals were appearing with red hair, and some of the sheep were being like dyed bright orange, and then after a while all the sheep were gone and the locals had normal hair again. They'd be like, what's going on? But often these giants would have red hair as well.
Whoa.
They like don't know what that was, but there was something, you know, maybe some connection.
What's going on? Can you all hear that?
Yeah.
I'm going to throw my phone over the other side of the room. Maybe that'll do something. Woo. Well, interestingly, I'm glad that you mentioned red hair, because red hair appears a little tiny thread through some of the phenomenon. So there's a school of thought, and no one write in, I'm not an Egyptologist, I'm just some girl from Birkenhead who reads books. There's thought that the pharaohs had red hair. There's thought that some of the mystery schools, the sort of leaders or the high priests or the, you know, whoever stands at the front, hallelujah, in red hair wasn't necessarily just a Celtic thing. It's another layer in the mystery. Maybe that's something I'm going to delve into. So it's quite interesting that.
Oh, I've got another one for you there. Noah had red hair, apparently.
Noah around the Ark, that fella.
Yeah. And there were a few others, I forget the name, but there's something on you it doesn't like. But apparently this was like a sign that they knew that the child was born and it was like a hybrid child. Like,
sorry,
want a better word.
Can you hear chatting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds like we're at a station.
It does, doesn't it? Hi. What would you do now if somebody went, hello? I'd be like, feed me a flip or the hair. Or whoever's listening, welcome. Sorry, say that again, Lucy.
Yeah, there was this idea that, say, the father of the child was like an archangel, or, you know, if you believe that perhaps aliens were involved in, genetic manipulation of humans, that it was actually, like the Elohim and that kind of stuff. But it was understood that the child would be born like pale skin, blue eyes, red hair, in a culture where everyone was kind of olive skinned with dark hair, and they would be like, oh, it's one of the alien babies, kind of. We just know that that's what it is. Noah was one of them, and there were a couple of others that I don't remember because I'm not a big Bible student. But yeah, red hair again popping up as being something otherworldly. Really interesting, isn't it?
Ladies, I'm just going to mute everyone while Lucy's talking. So it's one of you two. I was getting dead para, thinking, right, I've attracted them in again, and I'm going to be in for a real paranormal night. Right, I'll unmute you. It's you. Instead of listening to you, mate, let's lock that front door. Can you hear that?
I can't hear anything. Don't tell me it's me. Who is it?
It's a full-on like TV program or something. There's definitely chatting. Hello, welcome. Yeah, there's full-on conversation. I'll listen back on the audio. It's probably just interference. We'll just go with interference. But Les, I'm just gonna mute you a sec. So I'm freaking out. There we go. Oh, dude. There we go, guys. Elizabeth just said in the chat she can hear it as well. There we go. Wow. And that, everybody, is high strangeness. Me and Nat have had it before. Nat and one of our friends, and someone else, can't get my words out now because I'm more jittery. You've had chatting as well. So isn't it interesting? Alyssa's booking a flight to mine. No, it's just going to be.
No, I'm just texting Bella and going, if you're watching something upstairs, can you put your headphones on? Because it might just be that.
No, it was coming. It was coming into the.
Fuck this.
It's just frequency stuff. Listen, we explore this topic, so we've got to be aware that
stuff comes in.
Of course, it does.
I'm in a very old house, like surrounded by olive groves, and I don't have a TV.
Bum bum bum. Holly could run if she'd never broken leg.
Don't have neighbours either. Not like on the house.
But you are on a satellite dial-up connection because you're so remote. So there's propensity for cross
radio signal.
Yeah, so that's all it is. It's just, someone's watching Dora the Explorer, Hawelo and Miguel in the next village.
I'm going to mute myself then.
No. That was very Skinwalker Ranch-esque, wasn't it? Which I really want to circle back to this whole Noah thing, and I think maybe we should have a little think about lineage, because Lisa, haven't you got alien, that Reese's thing? Or
I'm Reese's negative, but I've done my like genetic stuff, and I'm like a third Iberian anyway, which could well be Basque, because the Basque have like really separated themselves a hell of a lot. But I've also got like a Zenki Jew as well, which is like Eastern European Jew. But my blood, my DNA also goes back to like Mesoamerican, which is another reason why I went to Mexico. And then I'm going to kind of explore those routes through Guatemala as well, because the Mayans were like really active in that area. So yeah, the rhesus negative thing, I was in hospital. It's when I had sepsis. I was down for like 2 weeks and I had a couple of surgeries. And this woman worded it in possibly the worst way, but they were asking whether or not they could sample my blood. Can we take a sample because the university want to study it? Because I had a certain type of anesthetic and didn't die. And I was like, I think you could probably had like a little bit of training on how you
bedside manner.
And it's something that potentially people react to, but I didn't. and they want to kind of study why. But then I'm like, well, why am I given that type of anesthetic anyway? I think it was all just a bit of a cover-up because they wanted to take my rhesus negative blood, take it into Liverpool University, and study the fuck out of it and try and figure it out. And even I'm like, well, I think the way she came across, I just said to her, well, look, can you give me more information on what it is you're actually studying, what you're going to do with it? She never came back again.
Was she even real?
I asked for more information and she didn't come back. She might not have even been with the University of Liverpool.
She's a woman in black. Bum, bum, bum.
So,
Possible.
yeah, so I've got the weird, potentially alien blood. Who knows?
One of our other friends, and until she says it's okay to say on the chat, she has, and my a family member of mine has it as well. I don't know which. So, am I all right? Well, you've put it in the chat. So, a friend of ours, Elizabeth, who joined our show, and she will be back in a couple of weeks. She has the same blood type. And she's just put in the chat, the MD of the hospital came down and asked if Oxford Uni could have my blood. It's known as golden blood. This was 2010. And she said no. I'm going to bob that in the chat. Wow. So,
yeah,
we haven't properly caught up, and I'm forgetting that there's other people listening and watching. I was in clinic today because of my broken leg. You know, I haven't talked about it enough, have I, for the past 3 months? And I got a taxi back because my suffering other half just sick. He just needed not to be ambulance guy. And I got into the taxi cab, and the fella had like loads of crystal bracelets on his gear stick, and he smelt of Nag Champa. And I thought, sound. And we're driving back from the hospital, and I thought I'll test the waters here, and I went, God, that looks like a UFO. And he went, you into UFOs, girl? And I went, oh, you're going to be so happy you've got me in your taxi, mate. And I started getting into the whole phenomena. And he was like, mate, I seen something years ago. And, you know, me and my girl, we go out under the stars. And I was like, you know, introduce him to H.I.C.E and C5. And he was like, but, you know, I reckon they were here for years. And I don't know if it was Dr. Gary Nolan or, you know, someone who's really, you know, eminent at the minute. I don't know if it was a podcast, and I'm sure one of our friends will correct me. So, you know, we're writing in. They said something like, if there was a race of intelligent beings, plural, that had been here on this plane, this planet, in this dimension, time, space, all that malarkey, you know, hundreds, way before humans came about, how would they leave a signal to let humans, once they'd advanced to find it out, that something had been here before them? Would they build a pyramid? No, because after a couple of thousands of years, that would erode away. Would they leave marks? No. And it was all no. What would stand the test of time? And I don't know if it was Dr. Gary Nolan, so do forgive me, and I will look into it and put it on the page, actually, because it's right that I get it right, so apologies. Whoever it was said they would leave a telltale sign in our DNA and with certain types of blood. And straight away when I heard that, I was like, wow. So you and Liz could be the sign. And there's people talking through your connection. Isn't that mad? Isn't that crazy?
Being watched.
I blew my own mind. I'm like that now.
So cool.
It's cool. Now, medically, what are you saying? These Reese's blood types, because basically Nat's been to in my head. She's been to every medical school there is on this planet, and she knows everything. She's a surgeon to me, therapist, midwife, nurse, clinical specialist. Hit me up, sister. No pressure.
The jury's out.
Okay.
Why? The jury's out on it.
Every time I go and try and find more information, I find it so hard to find anything rational, logical, tangible.
Mm.
Is it being hidden?
There's just
by
no
them?
answers, which I think for
But-
the level of science we're at now, you'd think they would, like the level of knowledge we have with genetics and everything else. And it's just like they can
think it was-
isolate so much, but why not have information on the rhesus?
I think it was
Gene.
Dr. Eric Davies that shared it. Sorry, I just ADHD jumped in then. I think it was Dr. Eric Davies who, those of us who are in a UFO world will know 1000% who he is and what he is about. I think I'm going to look into a little bit more about this blood type. Dun, 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 dun. We
So we
haven't
can find out.
I normally come to you for these things. We haven't really touched on the difference between a cryptid and a mythical creature. What is it? I actually don't know. I'm going to find out.
Much of a muchness, I think.
I like that. Much of a muchness.
Because I firmly believe that dragons existed. I mean, there's just too much of it. And then you've got dinosaurs. And who knows? I mean, T-Rex could have had wings. You just don't know. Little
just
tiny
don't know.
arms. And you're like,
Little
yeah,
bit.
attached to big wings. Could easily have been a dragon.
Isn't it mad when you look at it's totally left field, but hey, it's me. You know, when you go to like the park and you see like ducks and their feet, they look so. You look at some animals and they just still look so prehistoric. Like what are those? What are they called? Those weird crocodile, weird dragon-looking things that live on an island.
Komodo dragons.
Boom! Look at them. They eat like whole cows.
Everybody lives in houses on stilts, or else they come in your house in the night and eat you.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Really?
And they don't
Oh, yeah,
have those on the wall either, Holly. You're okay.
It's not lurking in the duck pond.
Yeah. I watched a thing about it years ago, and they did the whole village. It's all houses on stilts, and they're like, yeah, we've got to be careful, or they'll like eat your toddler, kind of. It's properly mad. They are big, dangerous-looking creatures.
Oh my goodness, Liz in our chat. She's put, we go back to the Basque. One of our ancestors was brought to Scotland. What believes to be the Knights Templars due to markings. She has an extra rib and elongated tailbone. Wow. Knights
I have
Templars is
issues
something we
with
should
my
get into.
tailbone as well.
You had a tail as well. I think you'd have a dead cute
probably
good
my
one.
tailbone. Because I've fallen like snowboarding and
Yeah, that was
skiing, and you think, just stop going on slippery surfaces. It's a really bad fucking idea, Elisa. But like I've fallen and it's taken me so long to recover because like my tailbone's just a bit
exhibit
weird.
A. We're not doing
Yeah.
any slippery surfaces.
No.
Why have we got tailbones?
From when we had tails.
What?
When we climbed out of the primordial soup,
Uh-huh.
or from when we were lizards, or
Oh,
whatever. I don't know.
Some people are born with tails.
Oh
Little-
no, shut up.
They are. You Google that.
I'm not Googling it because one, I'm scared. And two, I'm all right not knowing. People are born with like actually with like cat's tails, like tails.
Yeah, but they're normally like only itty bitty. They're not
Like
like
some things, isn't it?
down to your
I'm
foot.
only playing. Oh, I'd like a proper cat, like one of those monkey tails that curls up, because it'd be just dead good to swing around, wouldn't it? I think I've had a few too many painkillers this afternoon.
Uh-huh. I don't think swinging around would
You
do
could picture
you
it up
any
without
good.
bending down. It'd be great.
Wouldn't have broke me bloody leg, would I? If I had that tail, would just swung it round something, whipped round, and there'd be no broken leg. But yeah.
No.
Top. Okay, mythical creatures. We haven't really delved in, but I'm sure there's another conversation on that. Would we count fairies as in that? Because I know that's something we're going to cover a little bit more, gnomes and stuff. Obviously, we all believe in fairies because if you say you don't, they die. So we just need to make that, preference that
Clear.
very clear that
Yeah.
they're everywhere. Our tooth fairy, though, has been slacking lately. The last one blew off course.
Oh,
The one, yeah, it was really bad shift, and she just blew off course because there was actually a storm. But she made it after 3 weeks. Really, really tardy, our tooth fairy. And one time she actually forgot and then remembered and delivered the pound to another family member's house. So I'm a bit annoyed with the tooth fairy. I forget every time. So my son always goes, "Why is she always late? Does she not realise she's got a proper job?" And I'm like, "Well, you just can't get the staff, gents." And he believes it. No, he's not listening.
cute.
You've got I wrote him a note and everything saying sorry that it was from the tooth fairy that she blew off course, and like it was a full-on production. I had to hide the pain and everything. And I was like, she like
Step cuts. It's the same. It's the same. It's just a division of the NHS.
well,
Tooth
yeah,
fairy kind of division.
tough times at
They're understaffed. They're poorly paid.
Why do you think we use mythical creatures though to engage with children in a way? Why are fairies and gnomes and we're all roughly-ish around the same age. Do you remember David the Gnomes series when we were kids? I think
No.
this is a Mandela effect because I always say it and everyone always goes, I don't remember it. And I'm going to reset, I'll put it in when we go over the Mandela effect. When I was a kid, we'd go to the shop and there was a series, where you buy a magazine and the first one's like £1 and then the next one's like £5.99 and you get a little toy and it's a series of them. And it was David the Gnome. And he had this whole lived in this wood and you got a little gnome character. And he had a red hat, like little gnome head thing. And every time I bring it up, people go, no. But me and my mum used to go into the woods by my nan's house on Fisher's Lane and look, because that's where David's habitat was. But no one of my age remembers it. So anyone in the chat, if you're in your late-ish 30s, early 40s, do you remember David the Gnome? But yeah, I think that could be a Mandela effect. It's like full memory of going to the shop. Weird. But ladies, I think we have nearly hit the end of our Friday night show. So any parting messages? Anyone? Nat, we'll go to you first.
And Suzanne remembers Dave the Gnome.
Yes.
Yeah, David the
Yes.
Gnome.
There's 2 of us in the UK. Thank you, Suzanne.
But it's when I mentioned King Rollo and everyone just goes, who? And
Oh,
I'm
I
like,
used to love
Crystal Tips
him.
and Alistair.
What?
Nothing.
King
Who?
Rollo was brilliant.
Don't
King
never
Rollo
met
was
him.
great. I
Yeah.
loved it, the 2D thing. But then I mentioned Crystal Tips and Alistair because if I have my hair short, my hair's naturally really curly. So I look like Crystal Tips and everyone's just like,
Are you
who?
saying
I'm like,
Crystal
Tips?
Tips?
She's got triangle hair
Yeah, not
and a
tips.
dog. And everyone else is like, no.
No,
not
I've never
Crystal
heard.
Tips. Crystal Tips.
That's a Saturday name. No, I've never heard of Crystal Tips.
I
I'm
think
changing your name in my phone to Crystal Tits. I'm going to screenshot it. Yeah,
Look, when we put gemstones in our bras, that's what we are.
We are Crystal Tits.
perfect.
Oh, Suzanne, I think I'm going to have to message you if you don't mind because no one remembers it. There's only 2 of us so far in the whole of the UK. My mum's no longer with us, so there is only 2 of us. So I will definitely hit you up. But I think we've touched on quite a few subjects tonight, and we probably haven't unpacked even the tip of it.
Yeah.
But with this whole high strangeness, there's just so many. And we said this when we got together and said we were going to do this. I don't think we're ever going to be out of things to talk about.
No, it just goes on and on and on, doesn't it?
What's our next show on, Holly?
Oh yeah, what are we talking about next week?
She's forgotten.
I've forgotten. I'm on a lot of painkillers. Fairies and elementals, I believe. I know we are touching on fairies, elementals this month. We were touching on the mandala effect. But I am obsessed with the mandala effect at the moment and deja vu. Because I think deja vu is the frequencies colliding. Like the
That's
different.
the next one. The mandala effect, deja vu and time travel.
Perfect.
Well, I think people have such stark memories of things. It can't all be like, what's the word? Mass form hypnosis. It can't. We all kind of like
Mass
drank
watching.
tequila or took some acid that day. Like people have distinct Sex in the. I know we're delving into it. It's near the end of the show, but Sex in the City is Sex and the City. Sex. Huh?
Like Home
Was
and
it Sex in
Bargain.
the City?
And it's Luke. Where's your
It's always gonna be Home and Bargains. It's always gonna be the Asda.
Of course.
always the answer? Lucy, as a non, you obviously have spent a lot of your adult life in Liverpool, and it's where you've had your children and your marriage. But you know, you're not Liverpool native. When you got here, like you've come from a foreign land with Noah on his ark. Dun, 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 dun. Did some of our weird Liverpoolisms be like, what are they talking about? Because we do say the Asda, Home and Bargain.
Home and Bargain, that one confused me for absolutely ages. And I would say I'm just at the point where I just accept it, that everybody calls it Home and Bargain. And like, but it says Home Bargains. And everyone's like, yeah, but it's Home and Bargain. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense.
It's just fact.
Yeah, I've allowed for things like the Asda and that kind of stuff because there's so many supermarkets. You know, I'm from there really would just be one Asda where I grew up. You know, whereas people go, oh, you know, the Asda. It's like shortly the Asda around the corner. You know, it's that kind of stuff. So I'm just like, well, that makes sense. The home bargains thing is confusing.
It's weird.
I'm sure it was Home and Bargains at one point, and then they went into administration. They were like, yeah, but we need to choose something that's close to that name so people will know it's kind of still us. I'm sure of it. Like I'm sure that's a logical explanation there. Liz has said that
everybody says that's what it used to be called.
But did it?
But people do say it was. Obviously, I've lived here for 20 years. I've never known it to be called that. And everybody, like people younger than me, call it Home and Bargain. I'm like, you cannot possibly remember a time when that's what it was called. But
it's because their mums have said that, and their mums have said it, and
Home Bargain.
I don't know.
I remember when I moved to London, spent a couple of years down there, and I say boss as much as I say the C word, which I haven't said tonight.
No.
And I remember being in a meeting, and I was very conscious of my very northern accent and my very, over familiarity, because that's, northerners, we engage like that. And I remember being like, oh God, that's just boss. And I remember them going, who's boss? And I was like, and I just, I'm a fairly intelligent girl. I was a bit like, have I been using this word?
Scouse is another language, though.
It is. And everything's R this and all that. It's an interesting one. We've got our own breed of
high strangeness in Liverpool. Perfect.
Well, I'm waiting for some fella in some bloody horse
in Liverpool. I think we need to do a whole episode just dedicated to Liverpool and all the high strangeness in there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there is a lot run out.
As long as Holly feels safe.
No, I'll be fine. I'm just going to get a druid round, a witch round, a rabbi, a Catholic, and a priest, and a witch, and
we'll do a for you, grid for you.
Exactly. One thing, let's definitely do a Liverpool show, and I think there might be someone quite interesting we could probably bring on and interrogate, perhaps. You know, of the guy that's buried in the pyramid on Rodney Street.
Yes. Mackenzie. And he's sitting there with a winning deck of cards because he had a bet with the devil, didn't he?
Yeah. And I remember my mum years ago saying, hey, there's a deal with the devil, that one. I was like, what? And legend does say that he was poor, and then he came into money overnight, and he became like a head of industry or something, and he was just loaded, like serious mega pint money. And he was buried with a winning deck, sat upright in
because
the
he knew
pyramid.
that if he was interred underground, that was the only way that the devil could get his soul. So he's like, I'm going to be kept in a tomb above ground and I'm winning. And it's just like, not only has he cheated the devil, but he's dead cocky about it too. Like, haha, winning a hand of cards. I'm like, ooh, that's confident. Ooh, I don't like that. I don't know.
There's quite a lot of us to delve into. Maybe that's something we should look at sort of in December. Do a Liverpool special, because we've got people watching from all over the place, and I'm very proud of our city, and I think we've got the second most neoclassical buildings from London in all of Europe, I believe. We've got time warps, portals in some places. We've got strange goings on, very haunted places. Isn't the tales of the Grey Lady that walks the promenade bit on Hope Place or something? The one that's just adjacent to the Brown Cathedral. There's something there. So yeah, maybe
Hope Street is mad as well. All kinds of stuff going on in like the basements of Hope Street.
Proper stuff. We
live Masonic symbolism everywhere too.
Owls. If you ever looked up and seen all the stone owls in Liverpool, there's quite you don't know about them until you know about them. And Liverpool was a shipping port with trade and industry, so of course there was wink wink nudge nudge going on. Has anyone ever come across the Artists Club in Liverpool? It's an actual club that you've got membership for, and I've always wondered what goes on behind. And we've got the Athenaeum here in Liverpool as well, which is another private club, which is, I don't know if anyone's ever been in there, but it is, I've been very privileged to attend a couple of events in there when I was a bit cooler, or I don't know. And again, the symbology in there, if you're aware of symbols like we are, I was just like,
so much.
Interestingly, my partner's grandfather was a master mason. And I recently found out that he was like looked after a full chapter. So I definitely want to delve a little bit more in. And my cousin's husband, he's a mason as well. It's had a resurgence on TikTok. There's a lot of younger people now who were talking about masonry and how it's not as raw as it is. So we could definitely tie in the whole of Liverpool, the port, the stories, and maybe some of the brotherhoods. There's a lot of brotherhoods, I think, here in our fine city. But yeah, any closing words, Elisa?
No, other than I'm really freaked out by bangs and stuff now. So I think I'm breaking up as well.
I think it's your satellite connection. That's what it is. Lucy?
I was disappointed we didn't get onto fairies, so I'm quite glad that's fine. We're having an episode on them.
I think they deserve an episode.
Because there's a lot to delve into there, I think. Very much so.
100,000%. Yeah, we need to figure out why my tooth fairy is so shite. Nat, any last words from you, my love? Because you're going to be here in half an hour. So
a big shout out to Brendan Fugel and gang at Skinwalker Ranch. Please send me and the ladies a ticket to come over to do some work on the ranch. That's all.
I feel like this is a challenge. But guys, everyone that's tuned in and future listeners, people in the future, thank you so much for taking the time to spend 2 hours of your Friday night with us. Hope you've enjoyed some of the weirdness. We've had some weirdness that have gone on. We'll be back next week, touching on the Mandela effect, time travel, and probably 50 other billion subs, everything else. Yeah. But from me and all the ladies, thank you so much. Like and subscribe. Tell your mates. Tell Slinky Jack Dougal, whatever his name is, running around in a park outside my house. I'm going to lie down and have a stiff drink, I think. But thank you everyone for joining in. Give us all a follow on platforms, the Wyrde Sister Show. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Stay weird. Keep looking in. Keep looking up. And yeah, until next time, guys. Thanks for joining us. Bye.